Been a great week here on the podcast. Thanks so much for joining us every day, for sharing with your friends and family. Our downloads are growing. I'm loving that. That so many people really are trying to take back ground when it comes to the digital side of their lives. We've been talking about a digital detox here this week. Maybe we'll name the series Digital Detox. Obviously, on the podcast, we always try to help you win outside of work. And I say it all the time, if you win at work, you lose at home. I think you still lose. But one of the ways we lose at home is this idea of technology. I think it's stealing our family relationships. It's killing our communication. It can be so toxic. And yet technology really is not the enemy. It's just a tool. It's what we allow it to do in our family lives. And I say our family lives, I'm going to make an assumption today that some of you are listening and you have children. And I want to acknowledge that it is harder today to raise children maybe than it ever has been. And I think technology is one of the reasons it is so challenging. You're having to deal with things that we did not have to deal with years ago. My kids are now, they're growing up and they've moved on. They've got their own families, and I'm watching them try to raise their kids. And I was having a conversation just last week with a guy. In fact, if you want to check out our podcast from last week on the Lead Everyday Show, kind of a work podcast that Mark Miller and I normally do. Mark was not with me last week. One of my guys on our team, Stuart, Stuart's a young guy, young parent, and we talked about AI and fascinating conversation. But he talked about just how challenging it is as a young dad. He's got 2 little kids and trying to raise them. And I guess we would call it raising digital natives, right? I mean, these kids are going to grow up and AI is just going to be all a part of their world. Whereas, when I grew up, we didn't even have a cell phone. It was, we were back in the old days of the rotary phone, which if you don't know what that is, you can look it up. But I think there are just these new challenges that are going on. And I saw a study, some child psychologists now are putting out that children ages 2 to 5 are now spending about 3.5 hours a day on screens. Now think about that. 2 to 5 year olds, about 3.5 hours every day in front of a screen, a TV, a pad, a video game. Even, I mean, it's pretty wild when you think about it. And yet they spend in this study they did, it shows that they spend less than 30 minutes a day in unstructured play with their parents, which is a complete reversal of healthy development patterns. When we were kids, and I hate to be the guy that's like, when we were kids, this is the way it was, or when our kids were kids. I look back, it's like we didn't have all these devices. I gave the statistic a couple times this week. There are 30 billion devices now in the world for only 8 billion people. And it's just, they're everywhere. And so it shouldn't surprise us that kids are going to be exposed to devices. But when I think back to our kids and when they were small, we didn't have the devices. And so there was it was much easier to put them in unstructured play. But I see a lot of young parents now that they're going to the park, they're on a hike, they're having picnics. They're choosing to again, use the language we've used all week to take back this ground that's been forfeited in so many families of yielding to all the screens. And I think if we don't pay attention to this, then our children are gonna, they're just gonna default to YouTube videos and they can find, think about it, they can find their favorite YouTube video, but they can't tie their shoes as a 4-year-old. I mean, what are we doing here? We're not spending time with the kids. And you get to decide how much time you need to spend with your kids. And all. I mean, I'm not here to parent you on parenting your kids, but I think if we're going to default to the screens are going to raise our children, then they're going to raise our children. And we shouldn't be surprised that they're going to have a hard time with creativity. This is what the studies show. The research shows they're going to struggle with emotional connection. All kind of things are going to happen. And so let's think about a couple things today. Maybe push it back toward play. Now, you may not have kids, but I think this conversation is relevant for everyone. So I just want to encourage you to lock in here, see if we can't pick up a couple of things and maybe even make a difference in our family. I just think it's so important for us to have this, what I'll call unstructured play with our kids. I mean, it's just, we let them go out. They're curious. They're running around the yard. They're outside. They're in nature. I mean, it's so healthy when we do that. healthy child development, any kind of healthy child development, it really depends on a secure attachment with parents. We know this. We've seen this for decades. When children are emotionally connected to their parents, they feel safe in that environment. But when they're connected to technology, all that detachment stuff starts to happen. And if parents are, as we've said all week, if we're frequently distracted by our emails and our screens, and we allow screens, even think about it, to become the primary source of comfort for our kids, the screen is the reward. It almost elevates the screen to a place that I'm not sure it should be. And so again, you have to think through all that. But if we're constantly being entertained, it really can disrupt this crucial bonds that we are supposed to be forming with our children. And so let's don't lose sight of that kids need eye contact. They need affection. They need affirmation. They need encouragement. They need to hear your voice. And if we're allowing screens to divide their attention away from us, again, what we shouldn't be surprised if they're going to be emotionally underdeveloped, so to speak. And we want emotional security and social skills, and all those things are really important. So let's make sure that we don't forfeit all that. And then another thing I would say is I've been thinking about screens a lot. They just give us this immediate gratification. And if I could point back to anything that's been a part of if I've had any success in my life, one of the things I think has been because of delayed gratification. I've always just believed I believed it because my mom and dad taught me that you do the right thing now and you wait, and it'll pay off later, so to speak. It's the old you reap what you sow, but you don't reap it when you sow it, you reap it later than you sow. And so I think there's a big idea here that a lot of kids are missing out on because they just get immediate gratification all the time. We think our job as parents is to make them happy. It's really not. Their job is to train them and to help them understand what it means to be responsible and to be able to, guide themselves, lead themselves, so to speak. And a lot of that comes when we help them. We understand the power of that, and we just lock in and try to invest in them correctly. And I think when we're frequently distracted by devices, it's going to cause problems, but especially when we feed those devices to them because we need a break. So we're just going to put them in front of a screen. I'm not sure that's the best thing to do. And so, again, you get to decide and to think through that, but I want to encourage you to give some thought to it. And I think when children, they grow up and they, there's no delayed gratification, it just becomes their baseline to get, rewarded all the time. The research would show they struggle with things like patience and persistence and grit and resilience. So many things that can only be dealt with when we have to deal with boredom, or can be developed when we have to deal with boredom. We have to understand that curiosity is actually important. We can innovate and we can learn and we can grow, and we don't have to do all that through technology. So I think it can impact everything, really, from their academic performance to their relationship skills, to their emotional intelligence. All that stuff gets watered down when we just put them in front of a screen all the time. And so, again, it's not my job to parent you as a parent, but I just want to encourage you to think through what kind of environment are you putting your kid in. So what would our takeaway today be as we think about this idea of raising these so-called digital natives, kids that are going to grow up with technology all around them, something we didn't have to worry about. It's harder than it's ever been. I can't even fathom how challenging this would be if you have little kids right now. I say I can't fathom it. I do see it with my own kids trying to raise their kids, and they're doing a great job. I'm so proud of them as I look at the way they're trying to navigate this technology thing. But I think one of the things you could do here, if you want to really take a step in the direction that we're describing here, is maybe conduct what we would call an audit in your family. Like what's really going on? I mean, when you think about it, and as you think about your family's use of technology, I would just encourage you for a week to track that. How much time is each one of your kids in front of a screen every week? Now, if they're older, your devices will actually tell you how much time. If they're younger, though, we're talking 2 to 5 year olds, 3.5 hours. You can actually count that. You can set a timer and you can look at that. And I would just encourage you to give some thought to how much time they're doing that, and make a decision on the front end. How much time should they be doing that? And do those match? And if they don't, you're going to probably need to make some adjustments. And I know you may be thinking, well, dude, I can't make adjustments and my kids are going to flip out. They're not. Remember that you are the adult in the relationship, and it is your job to create the environment. Just like if you're the leader in an organization, the owner of a company, you're responsible for the culture. I think you're responsible for the culture in your home as well. And so I just want to encourage you to audit what's going on and to really spend some time thinking through, how would I create a plan, a strategy? We're actually going to share a little bit more tomorrow on some strategies for reclaiming family connection in this digital age. But the reality is our kids are overwhelmed right now. They're growing up in a world that we didn't. If you're listening to this, you probably didn't grow up in the world that your kids are growing up in right now. And it really is easy to feel overwhelmed with the pace of technology, how much it's changing, how many devices are available, AI is coming, all the stuff. But here, can I just remind you, the fundamental need of children has not changed. They still need love. They still need attention. They still need boundaries, and they still need opportunities to play and to create and to be innovative and to be who they're born to be. And I've been thinking a lot about it. I don't want to get to the end of my life and tally up how many hours I spent in front of a screen and be ashamed of that. That's not what I want to spend my life on. And I'm guessing you probably don't either. And so I just want to encourage you to create that environment, a healthy environment. Again, technology is a great thing, but it's just a tool. We don't want it to tear down the house. We really do want it to build a stronger environment, and it'll have its place. But reality is, as parents, it's our job to make sure that we create the best environment we can for the children that we've been entrusted to raise. And I think if we do that, we'll get to the end of our life and we'll really be proud of the way we did that. All right. I hope you'll come back tomorrow. Again, we're going to give you some strategies tomorrow on taking back the ground. Love you guys. Remember, winning begins at home.